We are Maria
and Nicole. We're two secular homeschooling moms that have
been there, done that. Geography is not a subject to be skipped in your homeschool. It has been my favorite subject to teach and one that has brought so much fun into our home over the years. From mapping and directions to learning about different cultures and how to be a global citizen, your family is sure to fall in love with geography too.
And as usual, we want to stress that our podcast is an inclusive space for your everyday parents that are looking for education options. We are not here to convince you to homeschool. We want to stress that you need to do what works for your child and for your family.
Every family's different.
Absolutely. And you know your children best. So feel free to take what advice or information you get from here that works for you and chuck the rest.
Good morning, Nicole. How's it going?
Good, Maria. Good morning to you. And a very happy Earth Day.
I know. Earth Day was last week, and we celebrated by planting all the things.
That's wonderful. And you cut the tree that hits me in the face when I leave your house.
Okay, I kill everything. I don't mean to, but I do. And so for some reason, these trees, these bushes that go straight up right next to my front door, they go crazy and they bend.
Yeah.
So they smack you in the face.
Oh my gosh. Everything by my front door is dead. So I have my two big pots, and they're kind of the bane of my husband's existence because every year he's like, what are you going to buy to put in these that you're not going to water and that are going to die?
You need to put your children on that. Have Jillian water. Plant some pretty things.
I know. I should. I need to do my whole backyard too and all my pots. But my dog, Maureen, has decided to dig a giant hole. A really big one. Did I tell you this? That I came home and there was such a giant hole in my yard that I thought my husband had called somebody to do like an irrigation project and forgot to tell me.
And it was Maureen?
Yeah. I don't even know why.
She's
not really a digger. Like she just every now and then, I don't know if there's a smell or like what, but yeah, so she dug this huge hole down the side of like a landscape bed. So now I need to like fill it in and put pots on top of it.
You don't need a trench digger. You just need your Maureen to dig you.
I guess so.
Your irrigation
if I could put her in some different places, put her to work where I need her.
Oh, she's so funny. She looks like a deer. I love her.
She's hilarious.
Well, we have a great, fun topic today is geography.
Yes.
I love this topic so much.
It is a great one. You know, geography is a topic that many families put off until later, but really it's a subject you can introduce pretty early on. Kids as young as kindergarten are able to grasp concepts like directions and maps, and they're often eager to learn about continents and other countries. Some people avoid the topic because they might think it's boring, memorizing things like states and countries, large bodies of water, and spitting out facts. I mean, that is kind of dull. But so instead, reframe it as instilling a natural curiosity about the world and other cultures.
For homeschoolers who may use a history-centric curriculum or a trivium approach, which describes the learning stages as children mature, which would be grammar, logic, and rhetoric, including geography early gives a great base at a time when children are naturally inquisitive and are learning and willing and able to absorb tremendous amounts of information. This makes having a general feel for where things are handy as you move into historical timelines and world events.
Yeah.
And from a really young age, we always incorporated a timeline in our homeschool, which really helped my kids visualize how history connects together.
Yeah, we did that too.
It also helps them identify patterns that have occurred throughout history. Let's face it, it's a lot easier to memorize historical events when we can see it chronologically and it makes sense in our minds.
Oh, for sure. I love a chronological approach.
Did you do one on the wall?
I didn't. I used a book of centuries.
Yeah, a lot of homeschoolers do use a book of centuries. They like that, and it shows the chronology of events without having to invest an entire wall of your house.
Exactly.
But as a secular homeschooler, I was always frustrated because every book I saw used the religious annotations BC and AD, and eventually that inspired me to create a secular version that uses the abbreviations BCE and CE for before Common Era and Common Era. And those are notations that are generally preferred in scientific and academic writing. I made that and it's available on our website. You can download it and print it and put it in your own binder, or you can buy the published copy. I put it on Amazon, and we'll have a link on our website show notes for that.
It's pretty awesome.
Thanks, Nicole. And although I love it when my kids create their own images to add to the timeline, I also created a 33-page booklet. It contains 372 colored timeline figures that cover world events throughout recorded human history from early nomads to 2022. And you can just print them, cut them out, stick them on your timeline, on your book, or on your wall if you have an entire wall as you study all those events.
They're super fun. And geography and history and culture really intertwine. So, when you learn about historical events, you're naturally going to learn about locations and people who reside in those areas. And so that's why geography is a really fun subject. Go along with your history.
So fun. So what are some of the fun ways to learn about geography?
Well, I like to start with just very general mapping skills. The book Me on a Map by Joanne Sweeney is really great for this. It's a playful introduction to maps, and it shows children how easy it is to find where they live and how they fit into the larger world. So it starts like with them in their bedroom and where their bedroom is in their house and where their house is in their neighborhood, and then it broadens through their community and state and country. We used it in a curriculum too, where then one of our first projects was to make a map of your house and draw
in your neighborhood. We did that. Yeah, it's amazing how well that they actually do know the area. Even from a young age, they get familiar with your streets.
Yeah, my kids were obsessed with map making for a while. Like they loved designing rooms, and then
who doesn't want to grow up to be a cartographer?
Exactly.
One thing that we've always done is whenever we're walking or driving somewhere, we talked about cardinal directions. Sometimes I still quiz my 15-year-old when we're driving. Which direction are we traveling? You can look at a map directory to find a store or a trail map at your favorite park or a highway sign that says how many miles to the next city. When my kids were 6 and 9 years old, I took them to Legoland and we laid out a plan for our day and all the parts of the park that we wanted to visit. And then I gave them the map and I told them to take me there. It was quite an adventure.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I'm a huge map fan. And you can talk about map keys and symbols, physical directions like north, south, east, west. My dad used to drive us around in the country on all these, roundabout roads and then stop the car and be like, what direction are we in? It was a little funny. And then, some people are more naturally inclined to be direction oriented than others. I was very good at this. My mom, not so much. But, it's always a fun thing to do. You can also talk about the sun setting in the west and rising in the east and like other landmarks in your area that might indicate direction.
Yeah, we talk about how cities are often built on a grid, and you can teach your kids what streets make up that grid in your area and what direction they travel. Passengers have more time to notice things like this, and it helps younger drivers too.
Yeah, we were just talking the other day about Spring Valley and Spring Creek,
like
how to remember which one of that, because one of them is the south one and one of them is the north one.
Sometimes that confuses me. On like Plano, it's a complete grid. And sometimes I'm like, am I on Park? Am I on Parker? Am I on 15th?
I've been telling Jillian a lot because I know that she's about to, start driving. And so I'm like, you have to pay attention for these. Because, we count a lot on GPS nowadays, but I think it almost makes us a little dumber. I'm still a big fan of an old school street map and atlas book for finding things.
Yeah, my mom, when she was a realtor back in the 80s, they used that book, Mapsco, all the time. They didn't have GPS, and so she was really good at it.
I know. Remember, we used to go online and print out our directions for things, too. But it's really funny. When I first moved here, and we would go from our house to dance, which was about an hour away, I used the GPS for like a long time because it had some complicated directions. But then one day, I was actually listening to the directions, and I realized that 14 of the 16 directions were stay on 121. So I was like, oh, hold on a second. It's dumbing me down. So, but anyway, I love maps. One of my kids even likes to open up the map app on her phone and just kind of follow along. And she's always telling me where things are. Or, hey, did you know there's a park in here? And so
I like that.
Love a map.
So one thing you can do to keep geography learning in your homeschool is to just take a road trip. We just did an awesome field trip episode and have a cool post with 100 field trip ideas. Hop in the car and go on one. One activity that my kids always loved is called Passenger Driver, where we spent an afternoon driving and them telling me which direction to go. At every turn, they just would tell me where to go. I would have never even thought of doing this. It was my kids' idea. And I guess when you're trapped in the passenger seat, you have no control. And this kind of gave control back to them. And I went exactly where they told me. It was always an adventure.
That's super fun. You know, we have a friend that always puts together incredible road trips for her family. And she's got a really cool Texas history road trip and a civil rights road trip that she did that were my favorites. Like, she even sent me the civil rights one for instructions. I know. I want to go on it. Maybe we should go. Maybe we'll do a live podcast from the road.
We totally should.
But, you know, you don't even have to go far on a road trip. Do something around town.
Right. And for long road trips, snacks and audiobooks or podcasts, maybe the BTDT Homeschool Podcast.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
And road trip games can be really fun. We loved making elaborate snack trays and a folder of card games like Highway Bingo, the license plate game, state fact sheets, and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah. Stuff You Missed in History Class was a podcast that we actually loved to listen to on road trips. And we were once listening to an episode it was about Native American mounds. And we happened to be crossing into Louisiana, like, while we were listening. We were like, oh, that one is in the States. So we hurried up and stopped at the Welcome Center and, like, asked them about it. And they gave us a brochure. And then we hit it on our way back.
Oh, how fun.
It was really fun. I also loved having like I said, I love maps and road atlases. But I have a kids version, a kids Rand McNally, that is also still in the pocket of my car that my kids like to bring out. And it had some activities and, like, cool pictures and stuff for the kids to follow along, too.
You need to link that in the show notes.
I will stick it in there.
Another thing you can do is start or join a geography club. Geography clubs are one of my favorite things. They are great for teaching kids research skills, how to make a geography and cultural connection. They learn physical geography, historical information, cultural facts, artistic skills. I mean, there's so much you can learn in a geography club. It was one of the
first things we did with you.
Yes, I ran several geography clubs over the years. I loved them. We gathered families together and we would choose a country to study and usually meet 2 times a month. And each family was responsible for presenting an aspect of that country. Typically, the family that was hosting would prepare the food since that's hard to transport. And another family would talk about the geographic location and the topography and typically present a map. Another family would discuss the people and the culture, and often they would come dressed in the traditional attire from that country, which was super exciting for the kids to see that. Another family would prepare a game we played that originated from the country, and another family did a presentation on the government, political system, and often that we had also a craft from that country and more. It just depended on how many families attended. It was an all-afternoon party. My kids did this from a very young age. I even remember Cameron tracing a map for Thailand when he was 4 or 5 and how excited he was that it looked like an elephant. He still remembers how to draw Thailand.
Those were some really fun days, for sure. And you mentioned games. You know, we love board games, for sure. One of my all-time favorite board games that can help with geography is Ticket to Ride. It's where you build the trains everywhere. And there's a First Journey, which is for younger kids. And also, it's one of my favorite games because the First Journey one takes 30 minutes to play.
And you're done.
Which is great. Which is great for young people. But there's also a more elaborate U.S. version, and then there's a European version as well.
Do you have I don't have the European version.
I think that I do have it. I don't know that we've played it a whole lot.
Yeah.
We've done First Journey and the American one. Yeah, we can play it.
When my kids were older, they loved the game Risk. What's not to love about taking over the world in a game of strategic domination? We have a really fancy vintage game that we got at a garage sale, and my kids always thought it was hysterical because it actually had the USSR on there, so it was really old. Even though the information was not completely accurate, we had so many discussions about it. They're never going to forget what the real country is today. And it also gives them some historical reference. The world game is also a lot of fun and a good way to teach geography for the entire family. And I promise with this game, you're going to learn a lot of geography too that you think you know, but you don't know.
Yep. There's also a lot of ways to incorporate books and other media into learning about geography. We read the book 360 Degrees Longitude, One Family's Journey Through the World in one of our homeschool programs.
Love that book.
I really liked it too. It chronicles a family's journey on bikes through 28 countries. And the book also uses Google Earth as a complement to its narrative. So it was really fun. You could go online and then follow along virtually. And it had maps and photos and videos and text and everything. It was really neat.
Yeah, and the kids that took those bike rides, they were really young.
Oh, yeah, they were
until the
super
girl
young.
broke her leg.
Yeah. Well, spoiler alert.
Oh,
That's okay.
They were young going through, it was incredible.
It was really cool. Like the parents put all their stuff in storage and, just they would ship books that they would use for homeschooling, like along the way. It was a really neat thing to follow.
Right. For younger kids, the older show, Where on Earth is Carmen Sandiego, still has a ton of appeal, and it's online to stream, or you can also get it from your library, or you can tune into the new version.
Yeah, there's been a reboot. I haven't seen it, but I saw it when I was looking up Carmen Sandiego.
Carmen is an international thief whose capers are used to teach children geography via tracking her down as she swipes monuments and sneaks them around the world. So you learn a lot about the geography and the locations she goes to.
It's really neat. You can get a pen pal or... one of my favorite things, post-crossing. I just did a blog post about this.
I don't know how I didn't know about post-crossing until you mentioned it recently.
It is the most fun, and I kind of forgot about it. We did this years ago, and now I'm way back into it again. Okay, so it's so cool. So what it is, we often see people request pen pals online, and you can find one that way. I had a pen pal when I was in high school, too, or junior high, or when I was a kid. I don't remember. But anyway, I was looking for that for my kids when they were younger, and I accidentally stumbled on this website called Post-Crossing. And basically, it's a website where you set up a profile and you put your address in there and you agree to send out a certain number of postcards, and then you get, for every one that you send out, you get one back. Not necessarily from the same people. You're just kind of thrown into a pot there. But it is really cool, and they come from all over the world. I don't even know how many thousands. Well, I put it in the blog post, but I don't remember now. So many people do this. So like every day I've been getting postcards in the mail. My husband's like, what is this? What's going on? I was like, it's so cool. But we would set up a giant map on the wall, and my kids would mark with a little star everywhere that we got a postcard from.
That.
And I had it set up in my profile that you can request what kinds of postcards you prefer. And so we said we're a homeschool family. We're using this to learn about other countries, and that we'd prefer postcards that have pictures of buildings or your city or your area. And so people would send those. It was really neat.
Wow. I really need to get into that.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Geocaching is a type of global treasure hunt, and I posted a meme about this on our Facebook and Instagram recently.
Love geocaching.
In this real-life treasure hunt, people look for hidden treasure or caches, and this is fun for all ages, and there are all types of caches from micros to large ammo boxes. Seekers use a GPS. Well, nowadays that would be probably your cell phone, but some people do still use a real GPS
I know,
tracking.
I used to use like a Garmin watch for it.
So yeah, they use that to find the treasures and then log their finds both in the cache and online. And there's an app that goes with that.
Yeah.
And the bigger caches may have cool items that you can take or trade. And caches are everywhere. We were really obsessed with this for a while, and it took us to some really cool places we would not have found otherwise. And I kept a gallon-size baggie in my glove box with a pen and little plastic animals, which I used for the cache trades.
Yeah, we had a geocaching backpack. I recently got rid of it.
Oh.
But a lot of adults even like to do the micros. There's like a lot, like people would go out on their lunch break and like find micros, and they really are everywhere. When you look at the geocaching map, you'll be surprised. You might even have some in your own neighborhood.
I mean, we found them like the light posts in Walmart parking lot. We found them on a hiking trail. We found them in like on the street, like in a hole, like in a divot.
Oh yeah, they're crazy. They're so much fun. I could easily also get back into that. Letterboxing is kind of in the same vein as geocaching, except rather than using GPS, letterboxes are found through elaborate directions and landmarks. Once you find them, they have a book with a unique stamp in a container, and then you can stamp your own book, and then you can also sign or carry your own stamp to put in the book that's in the box. So we've not had like a ton of great luck with letterboxing. There's not as many as geocaching. It's not as popular, but we have often stumbled on letterboxes while we're geocaching. We're like, we found it. Oh no, this is a letterbox. So great minds think alike.
Oh, that's awesome. Orienteering is a kind of sport that requires navigational skills using a map and compass to navigate from point to point. And it's typically in a diverse and often unfamiliar terrain, and sometimes it involves you moving at a certain speed. You'll have a topographical map with prepared control points. You can find orienteering groups in your city, and this is also a common scouting activity. And you also taught it to our Adventure Kids Club.
I did. I love orienteering.
Yeah, there's a permanent orienteering course at the Bob Woodruff Park in Plano here in North Dallas, North Texas area, and you may be able to find one in your area.
Yeah, I have friends who do races with orienteering too. It's part of they might have a run, a canoe, and like an orienteering portion.
Oh, wow.
I know, it's super fun. I love it. Another thing I talked about in one of our field trip episodes was an app called GPS My City, and I also have a blog post coming out on that. And it's an app that you can use to read travel articles and then create walking tours in various cities around the globe. So I mostly use this when I'm traveling and I'm looking to, see sites in a place that we're visiting, but you can also totally use it in your own hometown. So just a reminder that this is a weekly episode. We drop one every Thursday morning just for you. And if you have any additional ideas or comments, please come and comment on our Facebook page, on the episode thread, or send us an email at info@btdthomeschool.com. We'd really love to hear from you. So how do you teach about different cultures in your homeschool?
So we talked about Geography Club being a great way to introduce different countries and cultures to your students. And one of my favorite ways of incorporating cultural studies is through food.
Yum.
Right? Cooking is not only a great skill to know, but it's also a fantastic way to teach about different cuisine. We used a lot of different cookbooks over the years, but a couple that I love have kid-friendly recipes and easy-to-follow instructions. One of them is Cooking Class Global Feast. It's 44 recipes that celebrate the world's cultures. That's a good one. I don't know if you've used that one.
Mm-hmm. We have that one.
And International Cooking for Kids, multicultural recipes to make with your family from around the world, which is also another one. It's a Cooking with Kids series. That is another good one. So yeah, bring food into the mix.
Oh, for sure. And if you don't want to do this in your own kitchen and you prefer to support local, and that often means minority-owned businesses, which I like to support, I really recommend trying out visiting different restaurants and cuisines in your area. Often that's a great way to expand your food palette and try some dishes that may be totally new to you and learn something about the culture straight from the source. We used to have a culture club restaurant group where we met for lunch like once every 2 weeks, and we would try different foods. And in advance, we would read up on the country or region beforehand and then discuss it over lunch. And, sometimes the waiter would come over and he was also from the country that the restaurant was from, and he would give us some more information. So if you have a friend too who could guide you in the food of their culture, that's even better. We have a friend who's graciously done an Asian grocery market tour of her favorite things, and she also always offers to give friends a crash course in Korean barbecue.
Oh yeah, she's cooked for us several times. It's so good. Universal Yums is another thing we did for over 10 years in our homeschool. And if you've not heard of it, you've got to check it out. Universal Yums is a subscription service that sends you a box of snacks and candies from a different country every month. It's only about $12, and they send us so many snacks that were delicious and unique and often extremely difficult to find here in the U.S. Each box came with an interactive guidebook for that country, and it described in detail each item and where the food originated from. We would read these right before we actually tried the snacks so the kids knew exactly the history of that food they're eating.
Neat.
It was a big event in my house. And the books also have trivia, games, more recipes to try, and cultural facts, historical facts, and more, all from that country. We would often head to the library and gather books and continue reading to expand whatever we learned. And it was really like getting a present in the mail every month.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
We have not done that one,
Oh my
but
gosh,
sounds like a fun one.
Yeah.
I might have to pick it up. So we also are big into Model United Nations. It's an educational simulation in which students learn about diplomacy, international relations, and the United Nations. At a conference, the students will work as a representative of a country, and they must solve problems with other delegates from around the world. They learn all kinds of skills like research, public speaking, debate, writing, in addition to critical thinking, teamwork, and leadership. While it's typically an extracurricular activity, some schools also offer it as a class. We do it as a class. We spend a whole year working on our projects for that.
Oh yeah, my kids loved it when they did Model UN.
Yeah, my kids have been actively involved in Model UN groups since they were little. The program that we do is a middle school program, but then the high schoolers run it as the secretariat. And we also involve kids like 8 to 10-year-olds as pages. So like my youngest grew up as a page and then moved through the program.
Yeah,
She's now in the secretariat.
Yeah, she is the secretariat. And you had a big meeting yesterday about that.
We did.
Yeah.
We did. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, there are a lot of kinds of Model United Nation programs out there. The YMCA runs a large one, and there are high school groups that participate, even college groups participate in Model United Nations. It's really an awesome activity that engages students, and it really allows them to develop a deeper understanding into current world issues, world politics, and just the things that can affect different cultures and countries. Cultural events and celebrations are another thing that you can do to celebrate these areas in your homeschool. We touched on this in our field trip episode too, but visiting cultural events and celebrations in your area is a great way to learn about others. We love attending events like the Greek Festival, the Chinese New Year, and other country-specific or cultural celebrations in our area.
Yeah, my kids are cultural dancers, I've mentioned. They're Irish dancers. And we participate in a program at the state fair that features cultural performances every weekend, like while the state fair is in town. And our favorites are the Polynesian dancers and the African drum and dance group. And we also love the Greek dancers. It's a lot of fun.
Those are so fun to watch. And of course, another thing you want to do is incorporate a lot of reading. We specifically search for books that contain characters of color as well as main characters that may represent a minority point of view. We look for books that are written by an author of diversity or color from their perspective. Books that feature myths and folk tales from other countries are often favorites and can show kids the parallels between these stories and the stories that they may have grown up with. You do want to make sure that you are choosing quality books and not ones that reinforce those negative stereotypes. We want to encourage our kids to be global citizens and celebrate diversity and inclusion.
Yep, and we're going to include a couple links to websites that have wonderful multicultural book lists. Amber O'Neill Johnston's Heritage Mom site has a fantastic page of recommendations. She mostly focuses on including African and African American books, but she also has books about refugees, migrants, all kinds of different multicultural topics.
Yeah, and another list is from Mia Wenjen's site. She is the co-creator of Multicultural Children's Book Day, which is January 25th, and her Pragmatic Mom site is absolutely amazing.
It really is. She's got so many books on there. So we also have a friend. Her name's Kelly Tudor. She is Lipan Apache and citizen of the Lipan Apache tribe of Texas. She's culturally intact. She speaks her language, and she's active in local Native community. She has a blog that reviews curriculum and books from an Indigenous perspective, and she's also a very, very popular Indigenous instructor on OutSchool. She's one of the top instructors on there. Our kids have taken a class from her, a class or two, and we're going to link to both of those and her blog. Sometimes her class things fall under history, but she would like you to know that it's not history. She's a living and breathing Indigenous person.
Exactly.
Still. So it's great.
And we will include some of the links and ideas and everything that we're talking about on our show notes on our website. And I also created some geography freebies, so be sure to check that out after you listen. So what are our favorite geography homeschool resources in addition to the ones that we've listed so far?
Oh my gosh, well, we get like super excited talking about all this. One of my favorites is called Mapping the World with Art. It's by Eileen Henry. Mapping the World with Art it's almost like 3 books in one. Like the first section is a history text that tells the story of cartography from ancient Mesopotamia, like all the way up to the discovery of Antarctica. The second section provides step-by-step drawing lessons for each of those lessons there. And then the last section provides extra activities that you can use with your students, like worksheets, group games, historical crafts, art projects. I actually taught this in a co-op environment at our co-op group, but it's also great for individual students as well. Like I actually liked going through and drawing all the maps from the book. We also had videos for these, but do not confuse it with Mapping the World by Heart, which is what I initially ordered and was a bit of a disaster. So it's a similar idea program, but it's not great.
Build Your Library is also one of the things that we've used for years. It's a secular Charlotte Mason inspired literature-based curriculum that you've also used.
Yes, I use it.
Level 0 is a gentle tour around the world, and it introduces kids to the 7 continents and exploring amazing places, people, and the animals of the regions. It's appropriate for ages about 5 to 7 years old. Level 7, which don't get confused with grade 7, it's a level, so some people get confused with that. That was one of the favorites that we used. It explores various landscapes and continents, culture, people with another diverse and exciting book list. The literature in this level takes you to many destinations across all 7 continents, and this level also teaches about the religions of the world, This suits a middle-age school range and maybe even younger high school. It was really robust. This is a great program for multi-age families. I did use it with an older, and then had my little one incorporated some younger level books for him. The levels do not include math, so it's flexible and easy to combine different ages of kids. So.
A lot of people, if they have like an older and a younger, they might use 0 and 7 together even, so that they can have stuff for the little ones and stuff for the big ones. So it's a fantastic program.
Oh yeah, we love Emily.
Yeah. Another set of books that I really like was by an author named Clancy Halling. He was an author and an artist who worked in the taxidermy department at the Field Museum of Natural History in Chicago, my hometown, one of my favorite museums. He also spent a great deal of time working in anthropology, and for many years he dedicated much of his time and interest to making books for children. And a lot of the material he used was known to him firsthand, and his wife Lucille, also an artist, worked with him on many of the illustrations. These books are all like beautifully illustrated and include a lot of scientific information and different things. He has 4 books in particular that we've used. And just a disclaimer too, they are very old. Like, he was born in the 1900s, so I can't remember now if any of the books have like problematic content, but they are just a great geography, history perspective. But the books that we used was Tree in the Trail, which kind of focus on the American Southwest, Paddle to the Sea, which goes from the Great Lakes like out to the Atlantic Ocean. Men of the Mississippi is about a turtle that travels down the Mississippi River from Minnesota all the way down to New Orleans. And then Seabird is about the whaling industry, and that one kind of covers the whole world. We're actually doing that one right now at home, Seabird, finishing it up, because we have this set of gorgeous maps that we found from the Beautiful Feet Company. That's not a secular company, but the maps are just blank. So they're actually beautiful. They're on a parchment style paper and gorgeous. We've colored them in and then like actually hung them on our walls as art. So I kind of like.
I've not heard of those. I have to check those out.
They're really neat.
From mapping and directions to learning about different cultures and how to be a global citizen, geography is not a subject that you want to be skipping. It has been my favorite subject to teach, and one that has brought so much joy and fun into our home over the years.
Yeah, it really is a great way to just make learning fun. Meanwhile, tune in next week for episode 30, where we are going to be talking about early elementary science. How do I instill a love and wonder for STEM in our homeschool? What are our favorite experiments? And how do you create young critical thinkers? It's going to be a great episode.
All right, see you then.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Be sure to check us out on our website at btdthomeschool.com, as in been there, done that, btdthomeschool.com. You can join our mailing list and get news and updates on future podcasts, and be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at the BTDT Been There Done That Homeschool Podcast.